My name is Phoebe and I'm 60. If you looked at me now, you'd probably think I was just a lucky girl living a fairy tale life. But trust me, things are not always what they seem. My life is a bit complicated. It all started at this extra fancy party. I was standing by the buffet table, shoving a piece of cake into my mouth. It tasted like heaven. I immediately reached out to grab another slice, but before my hand could touch the plate, I heard a low, angry growl from behind me. It was Mom. She hissed at me, reminding me that I had to be more graceful. Then, she grabbed my arm and pulled me over to greet a smartly dressed couple nearby. Ugh, not again. The couple looked me up and down like I was an exhibit in a museum. Then they smiled and said they had heard I was a gifted pianist, and they would love to hear me play. I froze. Where did they even hear that? I had never touched a piano key in my life. I looked at them, totally confused, but before I could say a single word, Mom chimed in smoothly. She lied right to their faces, saying I had just sprained my wrist, so maybe I could play next time. I looked at her, baffled. Why would she lie about something like that? Geez. Later, when we were in the car heading home, I finally asked her why she said I could play the piano. Mom looked a bit flushed and admitted that she might have bragged to them that all of her adopted children were excellent at something. I turned to look out the window. What could I say? I guess all moms boast about their kids, right? And yeah, that's the situation. I grew up in an orphanage before Mom welcomed me into her family. Speaking of the family, our house is grand. Like really grand. I found it overwhelming at first, and actually ended up getting lost just trying to find my own room. Luckily, I had plenty of adoptive sisters to show me where to go. And when I say plenty, I mean it. I have 10 sisters.
Yep, 10.
It felt like I had just moved from one orphanage to another. Only this one was richer, and I wasn't technically an orphan anymore. We were all similar ages too. I thought it was unusual since foster parents usually prefer younger kids. They say us teenagers are too stubborn. And then there was my invisible adoptive dad. He was never around. Seriously, I couldn't even tell you what he looked like, so it was just us girls. I got along best with Collins. She was a couple of years older than me, and we shared the same bedroom. As much as I liked living with Mom and my sisters, there was a cat. Mom made us do all these strange things, like wearing cheesy matching clothes and walking in perfectly straight lines. Worse still, she forced me to learn the piano. That wasn't fun in the least. I was not musical at all. Every time I played, I was pretty much just creating noise pollution. She also taught me how to eat properly, but honestly, her training made me starve. I was only allowed to take a bite when she approved. She would nod to tell me to eat and frown when she wanted me to stop chewing. The meal was over in 3 bites. It was exhausting. But I supposed that was just how every mom taught her daughter, right? Apparently, I was a hopeless case because Mom got tired of coaching. She handed me over to Collins, her star daughter. We spent an hour every day together, but it wasn't for hanging out. Collins was giving me pointers on how to talk correctly. She told me I needed to control my volume because I was too loud, and being loud wasn't very ladylike. I had to practice whispering like Collins and learn to use smart words, because that's how intelligent people would speak. Honestly, the training just made me want to quit speaking altogether. Aside from Collins, I didn't get much of a chance to know my other sisters. Mom made each of us pursue a different skill. We even had to perform for her during these monthly assessments. Usually, Mom was gentle and caring, but when it came to training, she suddenly became strict. We all had to spend a lot of time and effort practicing. One day, I was sitting in the room trying to read a complex music sheet when Lexi stormed in. She had just come back from her skating class. She threw her skates onto the floor and started complaining loudly, asking why Mom forced her on this mission impossible, and screaming about how boring it was. I rolled my eyes at her. At least ice skating sounded 1,000 times more fun than the piano. And that's when a light bulb went off in my head. I had an idea. If she hated skating that much, then she's going to love my new brilliant plan. That night, I decided to shoot my shot. I went to Mom and suggested switching from piano lessons to ice skating. I basically asked her if I could swap places with Lexi. I knew she might say no, but I didn't expect her to fully freak out. She shut me down instantly, looking totally panicked. She didn't even try to listen when I argued that Lexi didn't even like ice skating. Mom just said each of us had different potential, so we're not allowed to switch. I was so frustrated with her answer. It was obvious that she wasn't going to change her mind. So I went back to my room and tried to vent to Colin. But as usual, she didn't see the big deal. She just shrugged and said Mom knew what was best for us. Well, I wasn't too sure about that. The whole setup felt weird. We didn't even go to school because Mom claimed her homeschooling method was enough. But honestly, I found her methods bizarre. I had always dreamed of this perfect life with an amazing, loving mom. But in reality, our home always felt cold. It didn't matter how hard we studied or how well we performed. She never cuddled or praised us. Even Collins, the smartest girl in the house, never got any affection. Her high standards only made me more desperate to impress her. One time, I spent ages making a fine dining appetizer just for her, but all she did was take one bite, shrug, and say it was okay. When I asked her directly if she didn't like me, she just frowned and told me to focus on my training instead. But I didn't care about playing piano or being ladylike. I just wanted my mom to love me. The house felt so stuffy. The only time I could actually breathe was on Friday mornings, when it was my turn to go out and buy bread for the family. I spun around, ready to snap, but I froze when I saw a familiar, mischievous face. It was Jet, my best friend from the orphanage. We used to be inseparable back then mostly, because we were always getting into trouble together. He just stood there with a cocky grin and raised eyebrow. I bent down to pick up the ruined bread. It was annoying to see the arrogant look on his face, but at the same time, it felt nostalgic. I snapped at him that buying bread was the only thing I was good at, and now he had ruined. Jet scoffed, but he still helped me pick up the bread. Seeing him so relaxed made me jealous of his free spirit. It reminded me of when we used to shoplift together back at the orphanage. I felt embarrassed thinking about it now, but Jet didn't seem to care at all. He even smirked and asked if I remembered our old tricks, suggesting I should just go steal some more bread. I stopped him right there. I put on my serious face and told him 3 things. First, I had been adopted. Second, my family was wealthy. And finally, I was being educated to be a noble lady, so no more stealing. Jet laughed and said that was ridiculous. Then he told me he had 3 things for me too. He had been adopted, his parents loved him so much, and oh yeah, they were cops. We looked at each other for a second, and then burst out laughing. So in a way, we were both caught by the law. We sat down on a nearby bench to catch up. When I poured my heart out about my new family, Jet didn't just nod along. He looked straight into my eyes and told me it sounded strange. He asked why they would only adopt teenage girls, and what exactly those training lessons and monthly evaluations were for. He insisted that he would investigate my adoptive family. I laughed it off, telling him he was being silly. I didn't tell him that story to ask him for help. It was just fun to reunite with a friend. So at the end, we agreed to hang out every Friday after that. But the fun didn't last long. Back at the house, my first assessment arrived. Of course I failed miserably. I couldn't even play a simple melody. My punishment was having to study for 3 more hours every day. And while I hated having to spend extra time with piano, it was nothing compared to my sister's punishments. Kinsley was forced to starve herself because she weighed 2 kilograms more than the standard. Meanwhile, Willow was forced to eat continuously at night just to gain 5 kilograms. Watching them suffer, a dark thought crossed my mind. The demands felt too extreme. Mom couldn't be doing all this just so she could show off her kids to her friends, right? Something else was going on. The next time I hung out with Jet, I told him about the crazy assessments. He listened with a frown, saying there was definitely a problem with my family. I was still hesitant then, because I didn't have any proof. So I tried to defend Mom, claiming she just wanted the best for us, but Jet cut me off. He told me it was as if she was training us on purpose, like she was fulfilling specific shopping orders. My face went pale. What did he mean by orders? I told him to stop being dramatic, but Jet looked dead serious. He compared us to racehorses. He said owners pump a ton of money into training them, not out of love, but to increase their value before selling them to the highest bidder. That hit me hard. Mom always promised us the best life if we worked hard. But were we just being trained and polished like prize ponies waiting to be sold? Things got even weirder a few days later. I walked into our room to find Collins happily packing her suitcase. She told me Mom was taking her to a new school the very next morning. I couldn't believe she was leaving so suddenly. Jet's warning about us being sold immediately echoed in my head, but seeing how excited she was, I couldn't bring myself to ruin the moment. So I just pushed the bad feeling down, hugged her tight, and made her promise to text me the second she arrived. But days went by and I heard nothing. Zero. When I asked Mom, she claimed Colin's hard work had paid off and she'd been accepted into a prestigious school with a strict no-phone rule. Yeah, right, that sounded incredibly sus. I told Jet about it, and he insisted I should report it. The next Friday, Jet asked to meet at a church near the bakery. I wondered why he picked such a boring place. But then I saw a group of schoolgirls walking out. They looked like clone-same dull uniforms, hair in tight buns, walking in a perfect line. Then I spotted a familiar face in the crowd. My heart stopped. It was Colin. I wanted to run over to her, but the middle-aged woman guarding the group shot me a glare so terrifying it froze me in place. I knew right then that something was terribly wrong. I grabbed Jet's arm and we scrambled to chase after them, but we were too late. They piled into a black car and sped away before we could even get close. Jet watched the car disappear with a grim look on his face. He theorized that they probably chose the church as a cover for their transactions, using the uniforms to make everyone look innocent and avoid suspicion. He pointed out that if this was a normal school trip, we would heard the students chatting cheerful, but since they all had the same blank expression on their faces, Jet was convinced they were being shipped off to the black market. Hearing those words out loud made my blood run cold. If he was right, Mom wasn't just strict, she was a criminal. I couldn't just stand there and let her get away with this. I had to find a way to save Colin. I must get to the bottom of this as soon as possible. That night, I tiptoed downstairs to eavesdrop on Mom's bedroom door. I heard her talking on the phone, confirming the details of a delivery for the weekend. She started listing Lexi's stature height, her skating skills, even her cooking ability like she was reading off a product info sheet. She assured the person on the other end that Lexi was trained exactly as required, and that the deal should proceed as planned. I covered my mouth to stop myself from gasping. Jet was right. Mom talked about her children just like product, and the next one to be sold was Lex. I rushed to check on her and saw her packing her bag, humming happily. She had no idea she was walking into a trap. I quickly texted Jet the news. He replied immediately, telling me to stay calm and wait for him to figure something out. But how could I be calm? I couldn't sleep a wink that night, terrified of what would happen to my sister. The next morning, as soon as I saw Mom and Lexi heading to the car, I knew I couldn't just wait around. I snuck into the open trunk and hid inside, hoping they wouldn't hear me. Right when the car started moving, I sent Jet our live location. After what felt like an eternity, the car finally stopped. I waited until it seemed safe, then carefully climbed out. We were on a secluded lawn. I saw Mom talking to a middle-aged woman. Mom handed her a thick envelope, and in return, the woman grabbed Lexi's hand. Lexi looked panicked, clutching at Mom as if she suddenly realized something was wrong. That was the breaking point. Seeing the money exchange hands and my sister being dragged away, I snapped. I screamed at them and sprinted across the lawn, yanking Lexi away from the strange woman. Mom looked completely shocked to see me and demanded to know what I was doing there, but I didn't back down. With tears stinging my eyes, I accused her right to her face, screaming that I knew the truth about the black market and that she was trying to sell us. Mom looked baffled by my accusation, but before she could explain, a siren wailed. 2 police officers rushed onto the lawn, shouting for everyone to freeze. Behind them was Jet, panting heavily. He must have called the police after I texted him. I shouted to the officers for help, claiming that Mom was trying to traffic me and my sister. But the woman standing with Mom didn't run. Instead, she looked offended and quickly clarified the situation. She explained that she wasn't a trafficker but the principal of a private school, and she was simply helping Gianna enroll her daughter. I stood there, my words stuck in my throat. My eyes darted from Mom to the trafficker and then to Jet. We had got it all wrong. Later, in the principal's office, the air was thick with tension. I had to explain why I thought Mom was a criminal. When I finished, everyone gasped. Mom sighed deep. She admitted that she made us practice that hard, just because she wanted us to get into this specific school, the most prestigious all-girls academy in the country. She thought it was the only way for us to have a better life. Lexi started sobbing, then she finally spoke up. She told Mom she didn't want to go there anymore because the rules were too harsh and the place was terrifying. Jet's mom, who turned out to be one of the officers, stepped in gently. She told Mom that she couldn't force kids to live like that. Adoption is about making children feel safe and loved, not pressure. The principal was furious. She told Mom that her school didn't need this kind of scandal. She had been led to believe we were naturally gifted prodigies, but it turned out it was all forced training and lies. She firmly refused to accept any child from our family. Mom looked stunned. She begged the principal to reconsider, insisting we deserved the best, but the woman just shook her head. Suddenly, Mom cracked. She shouted that she just didn't want us to suffer like she did. Then she burst into tears, and the whole truth finally came out. It turned out Mom used to be in love with a powerful politician, but he dumped her to marry a graduate from this exact school because it helped his career. Mom felt inferior her whole life, especially when he bragged about his perfect wife and talented daughters. So she decided to adopt us and train us to be excellent, just to prove that she could raise children worthy of that world. So that was it. We weren't products for a black market. We were tools for her to heal her own past trauma. I looked at her crying, and honestly, I felt a bit sorry for her. I walked over and took her hand. I told her we didn't want to go to some snooty school. We just wanted a mom who loved us and protected us. Mom looked up at me, eyes red and swollen. She apologized, admitting she was wrong and that she was only trying to help in her own twisted way. She pulled me into a hug, and for the first time, it felt real. Things really changed after that. Mom didn't just stop the Mission Impossible training. She actually started being a mom. We traded the strict schedules and fancy etiquette lessons for messy family dinners and movie nights. My sisters and I transferred to a public school where we can finally just be normal teenagers. Lexi still skates, but only because she loves it, not because it's on a checklist. As for me, I happily retired from my piano career to hang out with Jet without worrying about acting like a lady. But the best change is Mom. She doesn't look at us like projects anymore. She hugs us, listens to our silly drama, and actually laughs at my jokes. Our house is loud and chaotic now, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. I finally found exactly what I was looking for. Not a prestigious life, but a real family that loves me, flaws and all.